Savings are important, but there is more to picking a good project for Six Sigma, Lean, or whatever improvement you want to make. Hello, I'm Tom. Welcome to my channel where we talk about continuous improvement in an industrial setting. And today, well, it's a video based on a viewer question on, so how do you actually pick a Six Sigma project? And while we will not go into all of the details, we will go into quite a big part of how you do pick them. So first off, the part we will not be going into is more of the signal noise type of things. Do check out a couple of videos by Paul Allen on that. He's got some really nice explainers. I'll make a video on my channel as well about that concept. But here we will be going more into how do you sort of guesstimate the effect that you can have by several different methods. So that is all based on that idea that when we do an improvement project or sort of a big problem solving, we want to see what effect it will have on the organization, and of course we want to pick the biggest bang for buck. And the value of the project is definitely an important thing. But how do you guesstimate? Say that our process is behaving like that, then where can we expect it to go? And there's a couple of ways to do that. For instance, you can say, well, it should be over there. Now, why? Right? If this is just your budget assumption, what did you base it on? But it can also be a benchmark of a different factory within your group, or you've gleaned it from industry knowledge, like through consultants or industry media. You know that similar processes run at that performance level. So you also know you should be able to get there, right? It's one way of doing it. Another sort of tricky way to put this limit here is to say, well, if we can reach that limit, for instance in volume output type KPIs, then we don't have to invest in a new machine next year. So if we can reach that limit, the value would be immense. Now that doesn't mean per se that you can reach it, but it definitely gives you a very clear reason why you want to do everything that's possible to get there. As I said, if it's just in the budget, for instance, for that last reason, doesn't really mean that we think we can immediately get there. There is another way that we can use, and that is to say, we've got our average of the process. How about we look at the results we got at least 25% of the time. So we sort of draw a box plot here and say, well, this is what we have been performing at. And let's go from that center, not to the top. That is not realistic, but getting there is quite doable. So going from this midpoint to your 25% best value. The box, the top of your box in a box and whiskers diagram or in a box plot. So those are sort of two ways to say we should be able to do this much, or we should be able to do that much based on a benchmark. But whatever way you put it, base it on operational reasons. So not management desire, but base it on we have shown certain effects. Maybe you have a great idea. Maybe you know that with a new machine, the equipment manufacturer already saw in a different setup, sort of different factory, same setup, that they can reach a certain improvement. Those promises are out there in industry the whole time. Or maybe you just look at your own process, for instance, week by week, and you take the 25% best week, so that 25% quartile, and say, well, that is a good thing to aim at. You don't know how specifically to improve, but you do know that you have reached that level way more than once, right? So that is a very attainable level if you dive into your project. So this is one of the bigger ways sort of pick those projects. But I will say we're looking at KPIs here, or actually sort of operational indicators like OEE, like material loss. What is the value of that? And a point of OEE, so 1 percentage point of OEE on one line is going to bring you completely different savings or benefits than on another line. If you are going to be reducing the number of hours worked, then aligned with a lot of people on it will probably be saving you a lot more money for every hour you can reduce work on the line than a line that's run by just one person. Think about your fixed and your variable costs. I'll make a video on that as well, because that by itself is quite an interesting thing. But translate into what does this performance indicator mean in money? And that also, and it's not for nothing that we've been talking about it quite a lot already, is sort of your main thing, your main driver going to be for picking projects. It is that value that you expect to get. But it's not the only one, right? We also look at cost still in the same idea. But how about your success rate? Or even the visibility of the benefits to your organization. Now, we are going to give them weights as well. So we can pick any weight we want, but they are determined by the strategy and the phase where your organization is right now. If you are just launching your continuous improvement program, I would advise you to give a much higher weight to the success chance and the visibility for the earlier projects you pick. Now, later on, when you have proven that the program works, when you have buy-in, when management and other colleagues understand that this program is here to stay, the program has done quite a number of good things, you can shift focus more to the high-value projects and even the more costly projects. So this is a balance that will change throughout the sort of the phase of your continuous improvement program, the sort of maturity that your organization is in. But let's give this a couple of nice weights. So a weight somewhere between 1 and 5, and then we pick different projects. So we've got a breakdown reduction project, we've got a defect reduction project, we've got an overusage reduction project, all kinds of nice improvements of operational KPIs, and we're going to see what type of value do they bring to our business. So let's say that when we go for more breakdown reduction, we're in the sort of average. It'll cost us a bit more. The success rate is pretty good. And like this, we sort of get to a scoring, right? So in this case, we're going to get to 30, 40, 45. You calculate it at home. The second project, that is more about defective products, and it is quite a valuable project, and it doesn't cost as much as the other one. The success rate, well, it might be sort of average. We know most of the data. The visibility is already less. Now, of course, people do see defective products, but they will definitely see when their machine breaks down. So what have we got here? 29, 41, 50. And then we've got that sort of nice project as well, where we say, hey, our product is too heavy, let's reduce what we give away. The value is quite large, but we need to invest in all kinds of equipment for it. So this is one of those equipment manufacturing things that they come up with quite often, and will reduce the variability, you can reduce the weight of the product. So it is a bit of a tricky one. And these things are basically not visible to your colleagues at all, right? You're still making the same product and slightly less fill or things like that. So if we add up those, the value component will give us quite a serious boost, but all in all, this will give us about 40. So based on that, we will say, see, with our criteria, let's pick that second project first. Now, I totally made up these numbers here, but you can imagine that you have a meeting with your steering committee, your management team, where you go over how do you sort of scale these projects, how do you compare them one to another. You have some loose criteria, right? There should be things a bit like, if the cost is over 100,000, then we're talking a 2 or lower. If it doesn't really cost us anything and 2 people can do it, that's a 5. Give a bit of a scale for that based on what a normal cost for your business. See, any of these that is going to be a 5 for all the projects you're thinking about is a useless addition to your choosing list. But also see that what I told you at the beginning, at some point, success and variability will go down, and maybe even value is sort of overvalued here, maybe it becomes higher later. But if these go down, then suddenly that third project becomes a better choice. Now, how do you set that up? As I said, those weights, they are determined by you, by your management team. And you determine them based on where you are in your continuous improvement journey and what is the strategic focus of the business right now. Do you need a couple of successes, then give this a high weight, but also communicate that within your management team. Your management colleagues need to know why you didn't pick the most valuable project. They need to understand that we are taking into account that this early success and the visibility of that success also is an important factor. Great. If everybody agrees on that, or at least most agree on that, and the rest agrees to disagree but support, you pick that one. And that way, you pick projects sort of with a committee. So if you are a maintenance or quality or a continuous improvement engineer, and you've been looking at the data and you see all kinds of improvement opportunities, bring them as suggestions, right? Bring them as a sort of a menu that the sponsors, who are generally the management team, can pick from. Now, you can, of course, already come with this half prepared, but that should be their discussion, right? So, yes, you can prep it, but they should be allowed to change any of these values. They can't really change those values, right? If you did your homework correctly, you know what it is that you expect as the benchmark, the current, what the value of that is. So these are sort of facts. But even in Six Sigma, we don't only go with factual data. We also go for decisions. That is what makes management and leadership important in any business. We decide based on our values, the weights that we put to different categories, what we're going to pick right now. And yes, that may change over time, but that is the beauty of Kaizen, of continuous improvement. So if you want to know more about how to actually calculate the value and the cost, not so much on success and visibility for now, but I have just released a nice course on that, specifically on how do you calculate and report savings. Super important to have that done in a good way within your organization. So that course will give you all of the tools in how do you even get to that KPI to P&L effect, how to discuss that with your finance team, and then also goes into how can I actually calculate the benefit of a point of OEE or a percentage of material loss, or maybe energy and maintenance and fixed costs and stuff like that. They all have their own little details that are super important to understand before you can really use it and discuss it in your organization. So if you want to support this channel, go check out and get that course. I can assure you it is a wonderful thing to be able to not only improve the process, but also have that very clear view on what that does for the business. It of course, improving the processes is by itself super satisfying, but knowing what you contribute to the business, to me, also is always a major factor in motivation on continuous improvement. So go check that out. For now, I wish you the best of luck making your choice for the next project you're gonna do. And as always, don't forget to also enjoy the continuous improvement journey.